And are you refreshed? Good. Now what?
This is like winning the lottery.
Did you notice how you knew?
Yeah.
You're peeking around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You noticed how every person today, they've known, one person stands up? Group of clarity.
My heart's beating really fast.
That's good.
Is it?
Well, as opposed to the alternative.
Wow. So alive right now. Hi again. Thank you so much. I feel so honored and delighted to be like consciously co-creating with you and like expanding consciousness and the knowledge. This is like my second time. Like I went to the cruise, the Abraham cruise in Alaska last year, and that was amazing. And I spoke to you directly then, and I might need a little bit of guidance because I have so many questions. And
just focus on something that really matters.
Okay.
And let's just get that done.
Okay, thanks. All right. Feel a calling. I felt it in Australia, Sydney, Australia, and I flew through the sky and arrived at the most majestic palace. And on Monday, I will be studying with the Masters of Comedy at Second City. Is that good? This is such a great city, great people, thank you. So what I would really love for you to help me work on my grid, because I need to clear some resistance off my path, because I want to be a comedy rock star like Tina Fey or Jimmy Fallon. Yeah.
Well, we had a long conversation just now about finding role models and then letting them help you to fine-tune or hone your desire, but not utilizing them to your disadvantage by comparing their careers where they have amassed some momentum with yours that is beginning, because that is the thing that trips more people up than all other things put together. So if you can use the variety that you are choosing from as inspiration and not as the measuring stick about how you're doing, then it serves you really well. And the measuring stick that you use is the happiness one, the alignment one. You know how often really clever things flow to you and through you, and you know how you're receiving all of these ideas all the time. Well, that's because you're in the receiving mode. So you know that you're good at this. You know that you have all of that talent. You know that the potential is there. But there are a lot of people who have talent or potential for something that are not extending it into the outer world, because what they do in order to receive the clarity or experience the talent is not applied to the thing that makes it work in the real world. In other words, it's like, oh, I can play this instrument, or I can create or perform this talent, but to turn it into a business model where I am received in a larger format as these somewhat famous people, it requires the same thing as receiving the talent to begin with. It's all the same thing. For example, when we talk with someone, and it happens all the time, who has written a wonderful book, quite often they will say to us, I've written this book and it flowed so easily, and I know it's a really good book, but I'm having a hard time getting it published, or the publisher isn't doing anything with it, or people aren't finding it. And they say, what should I do? And we say, write another book. And they think that we are wanting them to write another book because this book isn't going to make it. And that isn't what we mean at all. We mean you have to get back into the same mode that caused the creative juices to flow to begin with. And so that is our answer to you. Just keep being funny. Just keep letting your creative juices flow. And most of all, from everything that you've heard us say already today, recognize when you're in that receptive mode. Feel how not just the idea of a few words that flow through you, but whole concepts spill into your mind all at once. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of really funny people who have reemerged into non-physical, who have your number, who are aware of you.
Ring, ring.
Who are really enjoying flowing to you and through you.
Hello?
At very opportune moments, you see. Yeah.
Okay, so dialing into them, or like...
Well, how do you think, knowing what you know from even just what we've talked about here today, how would you tune into that? How would you tune into that? Would you say, where are you? I can't find you. Or would you say, I believe you are there. I believe that you know that I am a vortex through which your funny can continue to flow.
Mm-hmm. I've got to turn my phone off silent, right?
Your receptive mode phone, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Why would you ever turn it on silent? I don't want to be bothered by infinite intelligence. I don't want good impulses. Now, you see, you're trying to be funny, but you're shooting yourself in the foot at the same time.
How so?
By playing about turning your phone off. Leave your circuits all wide open, wide open. Yeah?
And open the circuits by talking about them being open, talk about the channels being open, talk about being connected and receiving, acknowledge and appreciate when I am receiving.
Especially that. Especially notice when you're on, as you often are. Esther's running around with her pink-haired friend. Have you seen her around? Funny girl. And so often, hysterical things occur to them. And they think the whole world should hear this. They would all think it's funny. And we often say, no, just you two. The whole world isn't ready for that one. It's just for you two. But sometimes the whole world is ready for the funny that occurs to you, you see. And so it's a matter of enjoying your own experience, enjoying the flow that happens, and not getting too far out ahead of it and trying to make it into something right away. Enjoy it as it flows, enjoy it as it flows, until it's just second nature for it to flow, 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 until you're just tuned in, tapped in, turned on all the time. You know, you live in a situation comedy. You do. And the law of attraction is the best orchestrator of the situation to produce the comedy. And so when your intention is funny, when your intention is flow, when your intention is clever, when your intention is fast moving, when you get tuned in, tapped in, turned on, the universe will yield and yield and yield and yield and yield and yield and yield to you. You really don't want to live a sort of where you think of something funny and you write it down and you memorize it and then you just walk around watching for the right opportunity to say it. With all that is known, so that your timing is spot on, because you know clearly that timing is what makes the difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you've got access to timing. Enough?
Could you talk a little bit more about timing and how to improve that?
Well, the receptive mode creates the timing and nothing else will replace it. So if you're not in the receptive mode, don't even worry about it, because you're not going to be able to do anything about it. So get in the receptive mode and your timing will be right on. Because when you're in the receptive mode, law of attraction will line you up with the other cooperative components, and so you can't miss. That's the key. And when you think about those who you were describing, that's really evident. They're not worried about what anybody else thinks. They've got this sort of attitude of confidence about it. They think they're funny and they really don't care if you do. That really is the key to it. Not being self-conscious in the attitude of how you're being received by others, but just enjoying yourself so much. When you're really enjoying yourself, others, if they're anywhere near funny, they'll enjoy you too, you see. But that's one of the things about being a presenter of anything, is that you get tuned in order to be a presenter, and then you worry about what your audience is receiving, and then you're not tuned in anymore. So it really is an attitude of not worrying about how you're being received, and just focus upon how much fun you're having in your broadcast. And if you're broadcasting in fun, because remember, what you broadcast and the way you set your receptive mode are the same thing. So if you're just having a wonderful time broadcasting, now you've got your receptive mode set there. So now the cooperative components are coming with you too. So your audience, they're cooperative components. They're cooperative components to what you've got going on. And don't you notice that some of the most wonderful, clever, funny, right on stuff comes just to you in the moment? Wasn't something that was planned, something that just occurred in timing. That's why comedians are out there trying their stuff out on lots of audiences, just waiting for the magic to happen. And then they want to write it down and make the magic happen somewhere else. Some years ago, Jerry and Esther were living in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was hot in the summertime. And so they went up to Flagstaff and up to Sedona, up to Oak Creek Canyon frequently, and often took friends with them to enjoy the somewhat cooler environment. So one day in the middle of October, Jerry and Esther were driving down Oak Creek Canyon. It was one of those magical moments where the sun was shining right down the canyon in this unique way. and it was filtering through these amazing colored leaves, and there was just enough wind. It was a moment that neither one of them could ever forget. And so Jerry, who kept track of everything that he loved, wrote it in what Esther called Jerry's almanac. He kept track of everything in Jerry's almanac, everything weather related, everything wonderful related. And he said, we'll come back here next year and we'll bring everyone that we know. So they got a bus and they called their friends and they all got on the bus and they all went up Oak Creek Canyon, and they all went up around, and they're coming down Oak Creek Canyon. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. It wasn't there. It wasn't there. Because you can't recreate that stuff. You sort of kind of can. The universe is your cooperative component, you see. And so, of course, some of it will be so funny that everybody will like it. But it's the new stuff that's coming, constantly coming. That's what you're wanting. You're wanting that spontaneity of being tuned in, tapped in, turned on, reading your audience, knowing where they are, even psychically understanding what's funny to them. What fun's ahead for you? Really good.
We came up with a little song during the break. Do you want to hear it just really quickly, like a 15-second soundbite?
Sure.
So this is sung...
Sit back.
Thanks. Okay, so this is the theme song to this workshop. Maybe not. It's to the tune of Bob Marley's Jammin', but it's bobbin'. So it goes, bobbin', we're bobbin', hope you like bobbin' too. We're bobbin', we're bobbin', we're bobbin', we're bobbin', we're bobbin', we're bobbin', we hope you like bobbin' too.
We like it.
Thank you, I love you.
That cork is bobbin', 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 bobbin'.